All right, joining us now on the program, we're going to dive even deeper with IDF combat veteran and chief executive of the MirYam Institute, Benjamin Anthony. Benjamin, nice to see you. I want you to take a listen to something that happened here in New York City yesterday, a pro-Iranian regime demonstration, and they're actually praising the #1 state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Listen here.
Shame, shame, USA!
Countries and violate other countries' sovereignty. So it's really important in times like this to show our opposition that we don't want our tax dollars, $1 billion a day for these mobilizations. We think that that money should be going to U.S. people, like people in the United States. It should be going to fund our needs, not the war machine that really is not in our interest.
A staggering amount of cash is being spent there, but does this feel like America to you? Shame, shame, USA, hands off the Iranian regime that kills its own people?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a pleasure to be with you, Anna. Thank you for having me on. I actually want to quote for the viewers some of the things that were said at those protests over there in Manhattan during Al-Quds Day, which was founded by the Iranian regime in 1979. It's interesting because Al-Quds, of course, is the phrase for Jerusalem, and yet rockets were fired towards Jerusalem by the very regime that says it's its ultimate protector, namely Iran. And on this day, they said, and I'm quoting directly, "Say it loud, say it clear, we support Hezbollah here." That chant was then followed by, "Say it loud, say it clear, we support Hamas here." Now that is unthinkable in the heart of liberty, Western civilization, in the United States of America, in Times Square. But that's the reality, and it speaks to the fact that the Intifada has indeed been globalized. We are living within that reality, and all nations in the West need to wake up to that. They need to confront it, and they do need to understand that Israel is the bulwark against the aggressive spread of militant Islam throughout the democratic world.
Well, look, here at home, there are so many St. Patty's Day parades and gatherings and things that are happening this weekend. And I'm wondering, you know, how folks are feeling if they want to be going to these types of events. The FBI is warning about potential Iranian retaliation inside the United States with heightened security around the Oscars this weekend, too. Also heightened security at these other cities here on your map. How likely is an Iranian attack on U.S. soil, or more of these homegrown type terror attacks that are lone wolf style or Iranian sleeper cells?
Well, it's a great question. I wouldn't like to get into specific likelihoods, but I can tell you that despite what many in the media are trying to spin this campaign as being, the United States and Israel, in fierce cooperation, are really taking the fight to this regime. We are managing to degrade their ballistic missile capabilities, their abilities to send those ballistic missiles towards us. We've obviously taken out the former supreme leader. We've taken out their command and control structure. And what that is likely to do is lead the remnants of this regime to apply their focus to softer targets. What are those softer targets? Those that you've just mentioned as potentials. Jewish institutions throughout the Western world, gatherings of Americans celebrating liberty throughout the Western world. And so everybody does need to be more vigilant, but we cannot be afraid, we cannot be deterred, and we cannot allow these people to stop us from living our lives according to the standards that we hold so dear to us here in Israel and certainly in the United States of America as well. So we need to be vigilant, but we need to celebrate the way of life that we so cherish.
Yeah, otherwise terrorists win, right? We've got to keep our head on a swivel, but not let it change the way that we live our lives. It's tough sometimes when you watch all of these attacks, and we had 2 suspected terror attacks in one day this week. I want you to take a listen, though, to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. He says we are gaining a lot of ground here, touting the military hitting some 15,000 Iranian targets.
We're on plan to defeat, destroy, disable all of their meaningful military capabilities at a pace the world has never seen before. Their production lines, their military plants, their defense innovation centers defeated. Iran's leadership is in no better shape. Desperate and hiding, they've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do. We know the new so-called not-so-supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured.
And he's vowing revenge and also saying he'd like to keep the Strait of Hormuz virtually closed to inflict as much pain as possible. But take a look at this data here that we've compiled. Iran strikes are down, but they're still launching missiles and drones. So how difficult is it to completely degrade a country's military capabilities and further also degrade an ideology, a radical ideology?
So look, I'm speaking to you here from my home shelter in central Israel, just near Tel Aviv. We've had several firings towards this area. I've had to go to the shelter throughout the day, as have millions of Israelis, but the numbers are dropping. And anybody who assumes that the United States and Israel have unleashed everything they have at their disposal to this early point in the war is woefully, woefully mistaken. Now, I believe that this regime can be crushed. I believe that its ability to spread terror around the region and globally can be severely impeded. I know that we are destroying their ballistic missile capabilities, I mentioned. We're on the hunt for that 450 kilos of enriched uranium that's still somewhere there inside Iran. And my hope is that the Iranian people, once this campaign comes to a lull, will take to the streets. Now, I don't know whether they will or they won't. I don't know if President Trump or Prime Minister Netanyahu expects the Iranian people to come to the streets and to take their country back. But whatever happens, we will severely enfeeble Iran's ability to launch rockets and missiles towards us, to have a nuclear weapon, and also to spread its terror proxy. That is the goal, and that's what we must be determined to implement.
Despite the victories that the Trump administration is claiming, and rightfully so, I mean, you see the top leadership got taken out, in the first hours of this thing, but only 1 in 4 Americans currently approves of the strikes on Iran. That's what's going on in this country. The new Ayatollah is now in place and vowing revenge, as we said, but the son of the last Shah, the Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi, telling our own Katie Pavlich that he is communicating with Trump's team. Listen.
I've been in contact to the administration via the channel of Steve Witkoff. And of course, I'm sure the rest of the messaging has been relayed, at least on the administration side. I've been also talking to members of Congress, both Senate and House. I'm sure that President Trump has certainly showed that he will be supportive of whatever the Iranian people will decide. I don't think that he would be saying that I get to pick the future leader. It's up to the Iranian people.
How do you think President Trump would handle potential regime change there in Iran, leadership change there? He has said he wants to be involved, but he has also said he'd like to hand the baton to the Iranian people.
Well, I think it's the latter. First of all, I appreciate Reza Pahlavi's continued insistence on Iran becoming liberated. That's wonderful, and it's worthy of applause. But I do think that ultimately, the United States of America and the states of Israel cannot go back into the business of nation building. The task at hand is not actually most profoundly to liberate the Iranian people. That is the task that's upon the shoulders of the Iranians themselves, not on the shoulders of Israel, not on the shoulders of the Americans. But I think President Trump is watching. He's already dismissed the son of Khamenei, rightly so, as a suitable inheritor of the regime there in Iran. So I think that time, circumstances will tell, but a lot, as I've said, is going to come down to what the Iranian people do. And it's very different now, Anna, to prior to the American-Israeli action when we saw the uprisings a few weeks ago. Now we've taken out the command and control structure, the besieged, we've taken out the instruments of oppression and suppression there in Iran. And if the Iranian people do come forward, we can give them support and cover from the skies. And I hope that they understand that, and I hope that they'll seize this moment.
Well, this appears to be the help is on the way, coming true from what President Donald Trump said to the Iranian people who came out into the streets protesting against their government, protesting against an economy that was virtually collapsing before their eyes, and the mistreatment of them, and they've been killed and jailed and beaten. Just horrendous what they've been dealing with there. IDF combat veteran Benjamin Anthony, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.